Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to USask's Industry Insights virtual event. My name is Kayla Goshlak, Alumni Engagement Officer, with University Relations, and I will be your host for this afternoon. I am tuning in from the comfort of my own home here in Saskatoon, and so I acknowledge that I am on Treaty 6 territory and the homeland of the Métis. I also acknowledge the Indigenous lands that you may be situated on. We pay our respects to the First Nations and Métis ancestors of these places and reaffirm our relationships with one another. It is so great to have many of you attend this afternoon. Students, we know that you are in the thick of finals, and alumni and friends hard at work. So we appreciate your presence here today. And hopefully the session can act as one, a well-deserved study or work break, and two, be informative and insightful to your respective journeys. Just a reminder that this event is being recorded and will be available online to view in the future. The COVID-19 pandemic has created changes, both positive and negative, in our world as we know it. And so today we are to learn a little bit more about the current and future career landscape during and post COVID-19. We will hear from some inspiring industry-leading alumni and HR talent acquisition specialists who will provide you with tips and best practices in navigating the current and future world of work and shed light on opportunities within their respective industries and organizations in these challenging times. We will also have some fun polls for you guys as the audience. We want to make things interactive on the other side of the screen, so please participate in those. And our panel discussion will be moderated by the talented Greg Longster, who is tuning in today all the way from Vancouver, BC. So Greg received his Bachelor of Commerce here at USask in 1992 and has a proven track record of excellence with 15 years of experience in senior and executive management positions in the financial services industry. And since 2007 has been a partner with Leaders International executive search firm. He is also a member of our USask Alumni Advisory Board. So today we have a wealth of experience here in the room, so get your pens and papers ready. And with that, I will pass it along to Greg.
Thank you very much, Kayla. And hello and welcome to today's session on Industry Insights. While none of us need another video conference session, I'm really looking forward to hearing from our distinguished panelists today. As you've heard, I work in the employment and recruiting industry. I know firsthand that USask alumni are considered leaders, change makers, and visionaries in their respective professions. Armed with a USask degree, there is no limit to the potential a USask grad can achieve. In a post-COVID-19 world, current students and young alumni are uncertain about what the future of work will look like. Thankfully, our USask alumni are trained to lead in times of change. They are here to provide guidance and mentorship to the next generation of influential USask alumni. Today, we'll hear and learn from 4 members of our USask alumni family as they provide insight into the current career landscape. Our panelists are some of the top talent acquisition and human resource professionals in the game today. I want to welcome all 4 of them. I'll do a brief introduction. Celine Martin is currently the manager of talent acquisition at Vendasta. Since graduating, Celine has worked in the rapidly growing technology industry in Saskatoon with Vendasta Technologies. Celine specializes in employer branding, talent acquisition, as well as community outreach for Vendasta for initiatives such as women in technology, digital literacy, and STEM education. Celine, can you give a quick wave, please?
Hi, thanks for having me.
Great. Heather Ryan is here with us as well. She's currently the Vice President of Human Resources at Federated Co-op Limited. We're going to call that FCL from now on. As a member of FCL's senior leadership team, Heather contributes to the overall strategic direction of FCL and provides leadership for FCL's operations in the area of talent acquisition, talent integration, performance management, total rewards, succession planning, workforce planning, diversity and inclusion, organizational learning, employee relations, and advisory services. Is there anything else that there could be?
Hi, everybody.
Heather, thank you. Lindsay is next. Lindsay Rutherford is currently Vice President, Global Talent and Organizational Development at Finning. In a role, Lindsay is responsible for global talent processes, learning, leadership development, and HR analytics. This includes performance, talent, succession, engagement, executive recruitment, and leadership development programming. Lindsay, a quick wave, please.
Hi, everybody.
Great, thank you. Lisa Mooney is next. Lisa is currently the Global Lead Sustainability and Strategic Inclusion at Nutrien. Lisa is a proud Indigenous woman from Treaty 6 territory and the traditional homeland of the Métis. She's been engaged in the work of equity for the past 20 years. Most recently, her work has been with Nutrien and formerly Potash Corp in the areas of workforce and recruitment, creating an inclusive culture in the workplace, supplier diversity, and community relations. Lisa's role at Nutrien informs a comprehensive and integrated equity, diversity, and inclusion global strategy that takes into account regional context. So that is who we have as our panelists, obviously a distinguished group. And now we want to know who's out in our audience. So I think we have a first poll that we want to do, and we're going to ask everybody to click on what best describes yourself. We'll just give a few minutes for everyone to provide their insight. I guess I might as well do it myself. And in a couple more seconds, we're going to have the results, I believe, show up on the screen, and we'll see who's out there with us today. Okay, so the winner is alumni 3 to 9 years out. But I would say a pretty good and even representation, which is fantastic to see. And so an official welcome to everybody that's tuning in. I think we'll now go with, I think we have an interactive question to start off with, and I believe we can, everyone can respond in the chat as well, and I'll monitor that. But the first question is, what is one word or phrase that would describe the new world of work to you? Expanded, adaptive, rapidly changing, digital at home, lots of digital remote stuff, technology, absolutely. Isolating, good. Maybe while that feedback is popping up, I wouldn't mind asking the panelists to maybe verbally address this question for us. So if you had to say one word or phrase that would describe the new world of work to you, perhaps let's start off with Celine. What would you say?
Yeah, I think kind of building off of what we've sort of been seeing in the chat there, agile is maybe one word I would use. I think over the last year, we've really had to grow accustomed to not knowing all the answers and really learning to deal with ambiguity just on a totally new scale. So I think for us, being able to pivot and to iterate quickly, to not be afraid to make mistakes, but we always say if you're going to fail fast, is something that we've really had to adopt to sort of within the last year of new working styles.
Perfect. Heather, one word or phrase for you.
Yeah, I'm going to play off that. I think resilient. I think that people have had to be resilient and have had to do things differently and be innovative. I think all those words of changing and the technology. So we're never going to be standing still again. So I think people being resilient, and it's been something we've had to do. So that would be my definite word for our work today.
Thank you. Lindsay, for you, please.
Oh, I don't know what else I could add other than experimental. We have tried so many different things at Finning with how to make leaders better leaders during this time, how to work more effectively at home, how to keep our employees safe, things like that. And it's just, we've experimented a lot.
Fantastic. Thank you. Lisa, do you have one word or phrase for you?
Yeah, just to build off of everything that's been shared so far, one of the words I would share is opportunity. Certainly in the past, when we have looked at not only our leaders, but our employees, and what we've thought about in the past as what would define those leadership skills has changed. And those words that you had just heard are now those things that we really look at as key.
Great, thank you. And maybe just in a similar theme, I wouldn't mind following up with just a question to explore this a little bit more. And I'm going to ask our panelists to respond to the question of speaking to how the pandemic has impacted positively or negatively your industry and your current organization. So maybe we'll go in the same order. Celine, if you wouldn't mind tackling that question, is that how the pandemic has impacted positively or negatively your industry and organization?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that obviously when the pandemic kind of really hit in March of last year, there was so much uncertainty about what was going to happen. For Vendasta, we were kind of on the trajectory for a really large growth and scaling plan in terms of sort of the growth of our team and hiring that we were going to do. That sort of for the first time in my time at the company, we decided we were going to kind of hold off and evaluate. And sort of what we ended up seeing while we were evaluating what was happening with the industry was that our software in general was something that was able to help a lot of businesses survive and thrive throughout these new times here. We were able to help a lot of local businesses, but we did have to be, like I said, really agile in how we were able to do that we sort of had to stop, drop, and roll with a lot of new things that we were planning out and changes to how we were going to grow our team, that we were able to continue on with that trajectory that we had, but with a ton of experimentation and a ton of different adoption to sort of the changing times as well.
Thank you, Celine. Heather?
Yeah, I think we all experienced that in terms of those first few days, where it went from people having, pandemic teams getting together and talking about it to actually exercising business continuity plans. And I think for us, we have over 800 people in downtown Saskatoon. We have people in regional offices across Western Canada. We moved over 800 people to remote within 72 hours working. We have a lot of areas that are in distribution centers and our refinery, other areas where they have to be frontline. And so trying to make those folks feel as safe, because there was a lot, to your point, a lot of unknown and people were concerned and there was so much changing information. So trying to make people provide that information and make them feel safe. But for us, prior to, we were working on our engagement strategy and we were looking at flexible work. So in hindsight, flexible hours and some flexibility was something we were talking about, and it was sort of our biggest pilot ever that we're still in, that we can prove that we can be remote and we can be productive. So that was definitely something that's changed the way and how we work. I think from a business perspective, there was some lines of business like food, definitely a lot more people getting their groceries and being at home. Home and building supplies definitely going up. So we did see some change in what the consumers were needing. But I would say on the flip side, I think the one thing has been that connectivity or that ability, that human connection. And we've really worked hard to try to ensure that people are connecting. And even if it's, it's always virtual, but virtual chats or coffee breaks or something like that, because so much of it when we meet like this is for a designated purpose. There's X amount of time to achieve X amount of things. And you don't have those hallway conversations or sidebar conversations. Or for some people, they quite enjoy being remote, but others are really struggling. So health and wellness has been something we've really tried to focus on and ensure that it's okay to talk about not being okay and things like that. So I think it's been very trying to stay in front of things, but also learn and be agile to continue on. Because like I said, we're not through it yet, and continuing to ensure that we're benefiting and lessons learned. People often said, like, when are we going back to the way it was? And it's like, there is no back to the way it was. It's back to something better. What does that better look like? We're not sure, but let's learn from what's worked. Let's be resilient and let's try to do something better for the future, whatever that may look like.
Thank you. Lindsay, please.
I would link right on to exactly that COVID was this incredible, or is this incredible catalytic event that is going to change the way that we have ever known how to work. In the first couple of weeks, we did kind of the same as everybody else, stop, drop, and roll and get to your houses as fast as you can. But then really quickly, we had to pivot to go, all right, work still needs to happen. So how are we going to do this remotely? How are we going to do it a little bit differently? We had the opportunity to focus more on employee wellness and mental health, which is incredibly, incredibly important. We had to shift to our leadership development programs to be online. We had we were really, really lucky. We had already rolled out a new LMS system globally. We operate in 8 different countries. So we did something like 68,000 hours of online learning within 6 months or something crazy. But it has been an incredible, incredible catalytic event, and we will never, ever go back to the way it was before COVID.
Thank you. Lisa, do you have some things to add?
Yeah, so most of you probably knew us well when we were Potash Corp, and we've only been Nutrien for the last 3 years. But certainly for us, we're an incredibly safety sensitive place to work. And so part of what that did for us is our employees had great trust that we would do what was right for them, because safety has always been top of mind. But the other thing that happened in 2020 that changed the world, 2020 was a big year, because not only was there COVID, but there was the murder of George Floyd. And that has resulted in the world's largest civil rights movement in history. And so all of this change was happening at the same time. And part of what COVID did, and it aligned quite well with that civil rights movement, was one of the first things we did was reach out to our community partners to say, what are your needs and how can we help? Nutrien is part of the global food supply chain. Of course, we still had jobs, we still had supply chain opportunities, but that also meant that we had those investments that we could make in the community. And part of that as well was to engage our employees. And one of the things that we did, we knew that access to food was really important. And we partnered with 21 First Nations communities to get them some gardens. And actually, when we were in need of soil, we reached out to FCL and they said, absolutely. And they got trucks of soil out there, but we got tools and seeds and provided them support to grow food. But our employees as well got to take part online to share pictures of their own food growing and share tips. And so part of what I've seen as well is reconciliation in this province in the midst of COVID has just grown. So that too has been great.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for that. So there was a lot of interesting questions that have been posed, and I think that was asked through the registration process for this session. And we've got a number of questions here, and I'm going to pick on a few of these questions for our panelists as well. And the first one I'm gonna ask is, what skill sets and core competencies are you looking for in new hires? And yeah, and let's maybe keep with the same order of rotation for now. I do want to mix it up later, but Celine, do you want to address that question of what skill sets and core competencies are you looking for in new hires?
Yeah, definitely. So I would say for any role at Vendasta, we usually like to do a bit of a balance of kind of the hard or technical skills, as well as soft skills that make somebody successful into a role. So for us, before we hire into any position, myself or my team in talent acquisition will usually partner really closely with the hiring manager to create something that we call a scorecard or kind of a success card for every position. So this usually kind of aligns a good combination of technical skills or achievements that we want to see in a candidate, as well as some of the more soft skills that we would seek out in an interview. So kind of on a role basis, obviously, but from the people operations or HR side of things, for every candidate that comes into the organization, we conduct what we call a culture fit or a culture addition interview at Vendasta. So really just to make sure that every candidate who's coming on board is going to be a strong addition to our culture. I always like to say that we don't want to hire, the same person over and over. That's not beneficial to anybody. But we want to make sure that we're hiring candidates that do complement each other really well. So for us, we oftentimes will really look for those sort of core values of our company, which are drive, innovation, respect, and agility. I always like to say that these are not just, nice sounding words that we plaster on our website and kind of forget about. These are really truly qualities that we think are success factors in the teams that we've built and the culture that we've built up to about 500 people at the company. So I would definitely say our core values are 4 key areas that we would look for a lot for competencies.
Perfect. Heather.
Yeah, I think that we follow something quite similar with respect to, for each position, there's obviously the technical capabilities, and then we have a competency model, and depending upon people leaders, or we have team members, team leaders, org leaders, etc. But I think some of the things that are just fundamental are definitely what Celine spoke to in terms of ensuring there's values alignment. That has to be right off the hop, that there's an interest in the organization and the objectives of that organization. So at FCL, it's building sustainable communities together, and the co-op model, and making sure people understand that or have an interest in that or some knowledge. And then those values are so important. So ours are integrity, excellence, and responsibility. And for the same reason, it's that those have to be core. Those are not things that can be, you can pick and choose, that there has to be an alignment. But also, to do the role, you want people to feel that passion for what they're doing or for the organization. If they don't believe in the organization, they don't believe in the objectives, it's just a job then. And really, we all spend too much time at work to not be passionate about it. So we do look for that alignment. And people aren't going to, I will quote my CEO, who always says he doesn't want people to peak on the first day. You want people to learn and grow, so that learning agility, and they bring experience, but wanting to explore and continually learn and be excited about their work. Those are some of the things that, there isn't necessarily a way to capture that other than, my folks in talent acquisition would say, Heather, don't say this, but there is a feel. You have a connection, and there's some people you're like, no, does this feel right for you? Because you want to have that connection with your organization and hopefully for your career. So those are some of the things, and I think especially given the world that we're in today, having that emotional intelligence is really important, ensuring that people are looking out for other humans, that there's purpose behind it, that those are crucial. And I think becoming more at the forefront than they ever have been before. People understanding how important those are. And diversity and inclusion, Lisa spoke to that, and how important that is for inclusivity of ideas and experiences, but also be accepting of that diversity and include it in different mindsets and be open and receptive. So it's been a pivotal shift. And making sure that people are open and wanting to do things differently or learn from different perspectives.
Great, thank you. Thank you. Lindsay, please.
I'm kind of laughing because I'm sure everyone on the call is like, oh yeah, you guys have all your words that you use. And like Celine and Heather said, it's true. So at Finning, our values, which are the price of admission to even get in the door, are things like being trusted, collaborative, innovative, and passionate. So those are the 4 things that we look for in every candidate. And if you don't have those, Finning just won't be the right organization for you. So I think that's one thing I would say. And then in our hiring practices, of course, we have our different models that we look at for who to bring into the organization, that kind of thing. But one of the pieces I'm most proud of is that we use different assessments to understand diversity of thought. So making sure that we're bringing in people that don't all think the same. We traditionally would have hired like a particular model of person to come into the organization, and that has expanded greatly over the last at least 5 years. So it's one thing that differentiates us just a little bit. And I'm sure everybody on the call does that too, or all the panelists do that as well.
Great, thank you. Lisa, please.
So all of those things you've just heard as well are true at Nutrien. One of the things I would add, because I saw in the poll that most of you are in, you graduated in this last 1 to 3 years. And oftentimes when we look for work, we can be our own worst enemy. So if you feel that you're not wholly qualified, understand that lots of people apply on jobs where they are 60% qualified. So please know that you don't need to meet all of those, but take that time to go on the website and learn who is that employer, what is important to them, and how does that align with you, but also what are the things that have happened in your life, and whether that be volunteer time or work experience or projects at school that you can speak to that will line up with those qualifications. We don't expect everyone to be fully qualified, but what we want to know is, what is your potential? Thanks.
Great, thank you. I'm going to go to another question that was that came from our audience. And the question is, what are the different types of jobs and careers that can be found in your organization? And I'm going to maybe add to that to say, and has that changed in the last year? So what are the types of jobs and careers that you're hiring for now? And has there been any change over the last year due to the pandemic or otherwise? And I'm going to mix up our order a little bit here. So so be on your toes. Let's go with Heather first, please.
Sure. Well, the first part of that question, Greg, I would say that it'd be easier to describe those positions that we don't have, because we are very diverse with wholesale, manufacturing, and the retail world. So we have positions just across many, many different disciplines. I will say though, with the markets, et cetera, and what has gone through, I think that one of the shifts that we have experienced, and everybody has seen a tightening of belts, and we have a large part of our business in the energy sector, which these last few years have not been kind. And so we've tightened our belts, and we've really looked at our roles. And before we've posted, we've said, can others do that? Can we combine roles? Is it temporary? Which is something we were on quite a growth trajectory for a number of years, building out some foundational areas. So now we're really into a lot of replacement areas. But having said that, we are also looking for that diversity. If someone can move into a role, but then some other position comes available and move around, I would say we were an organization, not that many were traditional, where you kind of move up the ladder, the next level, the higher. And now we're really looking for, no, can people move across? Can people move laterally? Do you have competencies that can take you in numerous different areas and we can utilize across, and also keep people engaged and grow their development areas and things like that. So I would say that in the last year, we've been more on a replacement where needed, but we definitely have areas, and the technology still is an area of growth with obviously adding technology. We've got a number of areas, so looking for skill sets there, but all across our organization, whether it be from engineering, whether it be at our refinery, looking for specific skill sets there. Definitely in our distribution centers, the hoarding that went on early on and trying to keep products at our local co-ops, we needed extra hands and folks there. So it's really been on an and needed basis. And I wouldn't say it's been one specific area, but across. But I will say that we have definitely really scrutinized our recruitment to say, do we need that additional role? Because we are in a different environment in a different time, and we need to be sustainable for the long haul. So that's kind of been our environment. Where you have asked me a few years ago, I would have been rattled off a whole bunch of them that we're looking for in new and different areas. But it is a little bit of a different time right now.
Great, thank you. Lisa, let's go to you next, and addressing the question of the different types of jobs and careers that can be found in your organization and whether that's changed over the last year.
Sure. So part of what most folks don't know is we've changed a lot in these past 3 years. So in Canada, we have 255 ag retail locations. We have 6 potash mines. We have 6 nitrogen facilities. We have our corporate office in Saskatoon, as well as one in Calgary, and our wholesale office in Regina. So what that means is, much like FCL, we have all kinds of jobs that do all kinds of things. But part of what we spent a lot of time at in that first year when we became Nutrien was, what is it that we wanted to be known for right around the globe? And we came up with 3 priorities. And the first one was sustainable agriculture. The second one was to reduce our environmental footprint, not only ours, but throughout our value chain. And the last one was equity, diversity, and inclusion. And so what that means is we do have some new opportunities, especially in that space of tech. that space around environment as well as sustainability. It is a really exciting time, and we are really open to what is new. So certainly if you're young and this is your passion, you're a great fit for us.
Great, thank you. Let's go to Celine next, please.
Yeah, so I always kind of like to say at Vendasta, obviously, though we are a technology company, you don't have to be technical to work here. I know for myself, coming from my BCom degree, technology industry was not something that was on my radar or even, you know, kind of a future plan for me. But I kind of thought in order to work at a tech company, you had to know how to code, or, you know, had to know how to program. You had to be good at data analysis or sort of those areas. And of course, those are positions that we hire into Vendasta in a regular cadence as a software developer, you know, a product designer, again, a data analyst or a product manager. But we do also have a number of different areas in our company that are kind of more of, you know, sort of that support or sort of the business side of it as well too. So one of the areas that I think we've seen grow the most in sort of the last year or two has been our sales function, actually. For the first time, I think in the company's existence, our sales team has actually outgrown the size of our research and development function of the company, and is something that we're continuing to grow throughout the remaining quarters of 2021 here. Of course, there's a lot of opportunities in that space, but I think customer service, marketing, even sort of the operational sides like finance, human resources. We even had to have a food operations team at Vendasta that there really is, I think, a little bit of something for everybody. And looking at sort of how we've changed this last year, I would say that as a company, we typically have had a preference for candidates and new hires should be able to be in Saskatoon, and we placed a large emphasis on that. But of course, as everyone sort of mentioned so far, 2020 was a catalyst for us to sort of see how we can experiment and how we can learn and how we can find success, I think, with more remote positions. Sort of obviously still on a case-by-case basis here, but that's really, I think, expanded us and allowed us to see a lot of different types of candidates with different backgrounds across Canada as well.
Fantastic. Lindsay, please.
We had new roles join the organization this year, more because of our strategy, not so much COVID. COVID is going to impact the way that the work is done. It's not going to impact the actual work. We've seen we're big in mining, so you'll see a lot of mining technology and exciting roles like autonomous haul and autonomous solutions type of positions come into our organization. Really strong focus on supply chain globally for us. We're the world's largest dealer for Caterpillar equipment, so obviously that relationship is very important. You also see pricing roles show up in our world, and analytics has been kind of the biggest, latest, greatest, and I'm sure every panelist is saying, yes, analysts, yes, those are coming into our organization faster than you would believe. And they're hard to find, and they're hard to keep.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to go to another question here. So how would you recommend USask applicants strategically and creatively place themselves as an applicant to stand out? So what can a candidate do to differentiate themselves from others when they're applying for a particular role? I'm going to start with, let's start with Lindsay.
I asked our recruitment team this one because I was like, what could a new grad or like a U of S grad, what could they do to make themselves look amazing? And it was really simple. They said, if you're going to say that you are detail oriented, make sure that your resume has no mistakes on it. So that's one. Make sure there are no errors on your LinkedIn profile. Make sure there are no errors on your resume. And if you take anything from this call at all, or anything that I say, write this down. You want to look at Canva. Canva is a free graphics website. It is incredible. And it has the best templates for resumes that will make your resume look incredible compared to any other applicant. So canva.com.
Fantastic. Let's go to Heather, please.
Sure. I think also know something about where you're applying to. I haven't sit in a lot of interviews now, but so tell us a little bit about what you know about the organization. Well, not much. Well, how bad do you want to work here? So I think that doing a little bit of research and some of the things that we spoke to earlier about, aligning with vision and understanding what the organization is about and how they would fit into that and what they could bring to that. If there's been absolutely everyone has a website, everyone has information out there. So doing a little bit of research to show why you want to work for an organization is huge. And I would say it's detrimental if the first thing is, well, I don't really know much about the organization. Okay, so when you go into, if we were to hire you, how much effort are you going to put into that role? So I think for me, that's always a catch, and definitely, yes, make sure your resume is error-free. That's almost, I think there's lots of jokes that are told behind the scenes in terms of all the opening comments about, as Lindsay said, my attention to detail, and then it's spelt incorrectly. So definitely that's table stakes. But know something about the organization and show why you want to work there and that you've done a little bit of research on it and why you're applying versus just throwing your name in the hat.
Thank you. Let's go to Lisa, please.
To build on those things as well, and mostly because I have kids most of your ages, check your voicemail. So because we get a lot of people that apply on one job, we won't chase you. So if you can't answer your phone, that's okay, but check your voicemail and respond. But the other piece when talking about your resume and cover letter, so much like what you heard was to learn about who we are, but if you can reflect our language as well, that's really useful, because what can happen is if you aren't using the same language we use, we might screen you out strictly because we don't understand what you're referring to. So not asking you to change who you are, just simply make sure that you're speaking that language that we can understand so we can screen you in.
Thank you. Let's go to Celine for the same question. How do applicants stand out from others?
Yeah, I think I would probably touch on a couple of points here. I don't want to sort of repeat what everyone said so far, but I think one area that we haven't talked about is referrals and your network. I definitely think that relying on your network can be a really great way to stand out to a recruiter. I'm sure everybody here, we see a lot of applicants and a lot of resumes in a day. And for us at Vendasta, we believe that, great people, they know great people. So we do rely a lot on our referrals to make sure that we are finding people who align to our values like we've talked about and that are going to be a good fit for our team. So I think if you know somebody at an employer that you're looking to get on board with, don't be afraid to ask them if they can submit a referral for you or mention you to their recruitment team. I think as well, too, you've touched a bit on the resume and the cover letter, but I think the application is honestly just as important. I think that a lot of times we spend a lot of time on creating this killer resume that sometimes an application can kind of be an afterthought almost. I think for myself, oftentimes I will review a candidate's application before I'll even spend any time on the resume, because it does enlighten me a little bit more in terms of some of the candidate's passion, for the company or the industry. If they've done their research and can answer what the heck does Vendasta do, the effort, the drive that they put into how they answer the questions on the resume, sometimes even, their humility or arrogance levels as well too can be really shown there. So I always say that make sure you're being really professional. You're again having that attention to detail throughout your application process as well, and putting in that same level of work that you would in a resume as well.
Great, thank you. So I think we've got a number of other questions that we want to get to, and I think this is one more interactive poll that we have, and I believe that we're going to poll the audience here to see which question we want to ask next. And so if we can queue up the next poll, please have a quick read through this and see which one you're most interested in, and we will ask the panelists to respond to them. And perhaps we can display the results, and we'll ask the panelists that question. So overwhelmingly, what next steps and types of resources would you recommend to students and recent grads looking to jumpstart or advance their careers? Website, books, apps, people. So what resources would you recommend to help jumpstart or advance careers? Let's pose that question initially to Heather, please.
Sure. So I think all of the above, but I'm a firm one of connections. I think that was mentioned earlier. If people have connections and there's some insight into the individuals and networks are expanded, you can find out a little bit more about, knowledge and why. I talked to so-and-so and they work in this area, and I really like how, I think there's those connections I think are huge. So expanding networks. I always say never burn a bridge, because Canada, the world, everything is just too small. But someone always knows somebody. So making sure you're in those connections, and I would actually caution, it's great to keep really open on all the apps and websites and read books, but what speaks to you versus spouting information just for the sake of I read this book and I'm going to quote this quote, but unless it really means something to you, sincerity is huge. People can read through that sincerity versus someone just putting it in there for trying to make an impression. I think people can see through that, but if something really did speak to you, people can see that passion. So I think all of the above are definitely strong, but be true to yourself and what actually resonates with you. And those networks, I think, are really important, is to get to know people in all different areas, all different disciplines, all different organizations, because you never know where someone's going to know somebody else, and you'll find out about a role, or you'll find out about somebody, or just even learning. We're continuously learning or trying to solve a problem. Well, someone knows somebody, contact that person. It kind of goes back to that, I think, overriding pandemic, and it's going to continue on, that we really are in this all together, whatever this is. And if there's problems that need to be solved, let's connect together to figure them out. So I think that's one thing, that we all are somewhat connected. And so the more connections you can have, I think the more you'll benefit.
Fantastic. Thank you. Celine, your thoughts on resources or things that alum can do to advance their career?
Yeah, I think I definitely would reiterate and sort of build off of a lot of what Heather mentioned there. I think that it's so important to continuously learn and be open to opportunities to try something new or learn something new. I think the opportunities, to learn, they don't just end after your schooling or after your formal education. And there are a ton of different resources and materials out there, but I would definitely agree that I think your network is one really great resource that you can rely on. And I think, obviously we can't network in the same way that we used to be able to attend events or fairs or opportunities and see each other in person. But there are a lot of really great ways that you can join, online communities or associations or groups that are associated with your particular field, to meet new people, to ask about opportunities, to even ask their advice in terms of their career and backgrounds. A lot of people are more than happy to share and help, especially maybe new graduates or people who are looking to make a change in their career in those regards as well too. So I think don't be afraid to connect with people, to ask questions and just be open to those new perspectives.
Thank you. Lindsay, do you have some thoughts of your own, please?
The only thing I would add is you want to stay updated on the latest and greatest trends. I use Harvard Business Review a lot. I think it's a really, really great resource. It can get super overwhelming because there is so much information on there. And for those of you who are looking at leadership, I'm a big fan of Simon Sinek. So if you want to watch some TED Talks, Google him. He's great.
Super. Lisa, some things to add in terms of resources?
Yeah, I was just say that at times it can be hard to know how to build that network. And so certainly I always say that opportunity to volunteer helps to build those bridges actually. And you can meet folks from all kinds of workplaces in all kinds of roles. So finding those opportunities to volunteer, get to know folks there, and then is there an opportunity as well to look at some type of a mentor type of relationship as well. But knowing as well that when you network, it is just as much about you as it is them. And so keep that in mind too. It can't just be all about ourselves all the time either.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I'm going to go on to another question here. So I've got here, what are some good ways to determine if the culture of a company is the right fit for your work style and personality? How can people really assess whether the culture is going to be a good fit for them? Any tips or tricks from our panelists? Let's move on to Celine for that one.
I think this is a really good question. It's one of the reasons that we kind of talked about our culture fit or culture addition interviews that we do at Vendasta, because not only do those conversations allow us to evaluate if a candidate is the right addition for the culture, but also for the candidate to evaluate if it's the right fit for them too. I'm sure with, any interview, there's always that opportunity at the end for us to, reverse roles and get a candidate to ask us questions. But I think this is a really valuable time for you to kind of show that, hey, I've done this research, I've seen these core values, can you comment on this? To ask questions about the culture or those pieces of a work environment that are really important to you. I truly do think that it's a two-way street. So make sure that you're doing kind of your research and dig a little ahead of an interview or even an application, because I do think that a lot of companies place an emphasis on introducing their culture to candidates before they've even applied to a job in a lot of cases. Employer branding or marketing, careers pages and videos and those sort of things, that there is a lot of opportunity to learn, but don't be afraid to ask questions as well too.
Okay, fantastic. And let's go to Heather to add any tips or tricks there to assess culture.
I think I would just segue off of that in terms of asking people that work there. We've talked, each of us have talked about our values and culture, and ask people that work there that, if you know someone, what's it like there? Or even the person that's calling you for the interview or that you're applying to, do you like working there? What do you like about it? Do they live their values, or are they just words on the wall? At the co-op, you can say, we say you should feel at home here. Well, do you feel at home here? Do you feel that way? I think people will be very honest in saying, no, I do, and this is what I like about it. Or, we've got I think people are very free flowing, and especially if it's not in the actual selection process, but through your networks, someone who works. And it's not actually your recruiter that you're wanting to impress, but it's someone else that works there. Say, hey, I understand these to be the values. Do you actually feel that way? What do you like about working there? Because I think people will tell you the straight up goods, and you'll get a good idea of whether or not that they are living their values and whether or not that is the culture that they espouse to have. Because there are, I think I can say in my history, I've worked in places where there's a name on the wall and there's it is just a plaque on the wall, but it doesn't actually, you don't live those values, and that people make choices and career decisions based on that. So I think that putting that out there and asking the people that work there, they'll give you the straight goods.
Perfect. Lindsay, please.
This is the best spot when you're looking for a new job of what you get to do, because you get to be super, super picky of where you're going to spend your time. So ask tons of questions. As much as it's going to make me shudder to say this, but go on Glassdoor and go on Indeed and read those reviews. Read them with a grain of salt, because they're oftentimes really negative, but sometimes there's some really good stuff in there. And then do a quick LinkedIn search, see who works there, see what their backgrounds are. You can see pretty quickly if someone hasn't spent much time there. You can see the history come up pretty quickly. And also, Celine said this, but watch the videos on our websites, because we don't do those just for fun. There's actual good information in there.
Super. Lisa, some things to add for people to assess culture of organizations.
I would add to look at what are they communicating, how and where. So if they say that these things are important to them, when you look at their LinkedIn or Twitter feed, are those in fact things that they speak to, and how are they speaking to them, right? And are these things that are reflective of your values as well?
Okay, excellent. We still have a few more minutes here, and I wouldn't mind jumping to something maybe a little bit more fun to get to know our panelists a little bit more. And I'd say for anyone that's watching, feel free to put your own comments in the chat as well. But I wouldn't mind asking the panelists, what was your favorite place to study at the university? Where did you study? Who wants to start with that one?
I can jump in. I used to go to the basement of the law library, actually, because there was little cubicles in there. You couldn't take food in there unless you did very discreetly, which I didn't, but anyways. In the basement of the law library, that was a very quiet place, because up in what was, I don't know what it is today, but the reading room back when I was there was no reading happened at that time in the reading room in Edwards. Well, it was the Commerce then, but in Edwards today.
Yeah. That was the same as me. I went to the reading room if I didn't need to get anything done. If I needed to get something done, I went to the law library. Celine, where would you study?
See, I actually enjoy a little bit of a buzz and a background noise sort of when I'm studying. So I actually really liked the reading room. This was before the nice new makeover that happened a few years back, but I really liked it. I liked studying in there because I liked having a bit of background noise. I didn't study super well when it was too quiet for me. So I loved the reading room actually for that.
Okay, Lindsay?
I'm thinking about the gross, dingy chairs that were in the reading room. Ugh. But it was a good place to study. I also liked to go to the arts and science cafeteria. On Tuesdays, they had these giant tacos that were so delicious and cheap. And it was quiet in there. They let you sit in there for hours.
Yeah, perfect. Well, the reading room, wherever they actually have pubs to study time, it's sometimes those chairs did get a little dirty. Lisa, how about you?
I will admit I was also in the law library, and this will age myself, but it's because there was a photocopier on the end, which I'm sure nobody uses now, but and you used to have to spend 10 cents per page, and you could put in one dime and photocopy as much as you want.
Excellent. One other question, we just have a couple minutes left. I wouldn't mind just opening this up for the panel. Is, one question that's come in and floated around a little bit through the chat is something about networking and how difficult that is due to COVID and not the personal events, but how can people still engage with others? How can people still network? How can they still raise their own personal profile in these days of no social events and activities? Can I pick on somebody, or maybe I'll ask Heather to start off on that one?
Sure. Yeah, there's a wealth of online events that are available that there's no fee for, that it's information sharing and it's part of that connection. So whether it's associations or, university sponsored or through different industries, that if you just, whether it's through LinkedIn or different areas, or, to see what's out there, there is a lot of online chats and just lunch and learns and things like that, just to gain information that people can share their ideas. And your name, you put your name, not unlike how you can see our names today, and people can ask questions. And I think there is opportunities to reach out to different, it is different, but it is also, I almost find too that some people feel more comfortable talking in this way, or submitting a question versus the chat, versus the thought of walking into a room where you don't know anybody. So I think there are opportunities, and plus the price of those, like a lot of them are free, where in the past, if you were going to attend an event, you had to sign up for with a registration fee, and there are still some that are registration fees, but I feel the price of them is much different than if it was a supper or a lunch, where many students, I know when I was a student, I wouldn't have attended any of those unless someone sponsored me, because didn't have that kind of spare dollars to spend in something like that. But I think that take those opportunities, and people want to hear, and we want to hear ideas from students or anyone else, not just students, but new fresh ideas. So we're eager to hear. We don't want to just listen to ourselves. if you're on these events, you want to hear from the folks that are participating, because there's lots of great insights.
Fantastic. And I won't necessarily go through everybody, but for our panelists, anything else to add in terms of how people can network in these days without the in-person events?
You know, I would just tag on to what Heather said, that, you know, go to as many events as you can that are free and online, and be courageous and ask questions, because that's how people will start to recognize your name and recognize who you are. And you might think your question is silly, and it might be something totally new and fresh that nobody has heard before. So just be courageous.
Fantastic. Anything else to add?
I would say also, like, outside of just the norm of events, that there are a lot of opportunities online to search out groups or associations that you can join as well too, depending obviously on your field. But there are a number of different ones online, so don't be afraid to search those out, or look for a mentor in your area and ask what are some groups that they might recommend. I'm also going to shamelessly plug that Vendasta has a monthly event here that we call it Ideas on Tap. It's something that we did obviously pre-COVID in person, and kind of a sort of TED Talk style, where we sort of pick a topic or an area of our business that we're going to focus on for that month, whether it's development, design, sales, customer service, or marketing. We kind of rotate through it and bring in different speakers. So we relaunched that virtually just over the last 2 months here. So keep an eye on our Facebook page for that, to check that out as well. It is a free event.
Okay. Thank you. Well, I think we're getting to the end of our time, and I just want to, quickly thank the panelists for participating in this. I think it's been excellent, and thank the audience for the lively conversation and active participation. And of course, we'd love to have done this in person, but we couldn't. So this was the next best thing, I think. And with that, I'll turn it over to Kayla to make some closing remarks.
Thank you, Greg. And it definitely is the next best thing. I mean, otherwise, I don't think we would have had you or Lindsay a part of this. So, I mean, doing it this way is very remarkable. So thank you, everyone, our panelists, our moderator, for being here with us today. I know it's over the lunch hour. You're busy individuals, so we really thank you for your time. And I personally got something. I mean, I love the stop, drop, and roll comment. I find that I've been doing that myself always. So, I mean, it is something that I might just plaster on my wall and just remind myself that it's okay to stop, to drop, and to roll and restart if I have to. So coming together like this reminds us of our USask connection. And of course, this university, USask, is always here to help guide our lives and careers. So we hope that those of you who tuned in were able to feel more confident as you go into your career searching, or if you're looking to advance your careers. As promised, I will announce the winner of the online contest for the $100 gift card. Thank you to our partners at TD Financial. So the winner is Patricia Bautista. Patricia, congratulations. And moving along from that, whenever you tune off today, you will notice that there is a survey. We want to hear from you as to how did you enjoy this event, but also what more can we do in the future to engage you as our audience, students, alumni, and friends. So please take the 30 seconds or 20 seconds to do it, and we'd be so thankful. And if you're ever interested in knowing more about what is upcoming, what are we doing at USask Alumni and University Relations, certainly go on our website, alumni.usask.ca. So thank you again so much to our panelists, our moderator. Enjoy your afternoons, and we'll see you guys soon. Have a great afternoon.